cross where your love poured out. Bring me to my knees, Lord, I lay me down. Rid me of myself, I belong to you. Oh, lead me to the cross.
Easter, which is actually the celebration of Ishtar, the fertility goddess, who is nothing else but another type of Isis and Semiramis. What does Easter bring in? Sex gods and goddesses to make your child into a freak. Out collecting Ishtar eggs. The demons have been having a field day. I mention it, I become the enemy. I'm crazy. He's an extremist. He's a fanatic. That's what the demons will tell you. Because they're getting into the bloodstream. They're getting into the thinking mechanisms. The mind is being alienated by the demonic intrusion. Trauma-based. That's why they paddle you when you join fraternities and sororities. They're traumatizing you. They make you deprived. They deprive you of food. They keep you awake. You got to learn all this gibberish to quote back to them, or else you won't make it in. See, the trauma of not belonging to the group is too much to bear. I got to join this sorority because my mama was in it, because my grandmama was in it, my great-grandmama was a Delta. I got to be one of them. I got to be an AKA. I got to be a Q-dog. My daddy was one. Trauma-based. The rejection of your family if you don't get in. Phone calls are made to get you in that sorority. Because my baby got to be a member of the Deltas. That's in our bloodline. That's the demon that rules you. I mentioned it in church. You watch all the fraternity and sorority members and the Masons and the Eastern Stars rise up in mass and curse me. That's the demons. We're warring with an army of demons that have gotten into the souls of men, and they're cohabitating with man for a reason. For the monarch slaves, the therapists have wanted integration. For the world, Christ wanted integration. But there are formidable spiritual strongholds which divide us. These spiritual strongholds are far stronger than most Christians can imagine. Spiritual strongholds in people's minds that war against you. You trying to figure out why a person won't receive Christ. They worship another god. They worship the goddesses and gods of the New Age and of this Eastern mysticism. And these things they've joined themselves to. Their fathers and mothers joined this stuff, and it's come down as a blood-borne anti-God pathogen. That's why you stop debating it, stop theorizing, until a person sees themselves as depraved and shameful and lowly and corrupt, and they're not willing to cry out to God. You can't save them, because they stand against God. They won't bow to Him. You cannot hate something passionately if you are unaware of it. When two groups are very similar, in order to highlight their individual identity, they will have a high level of animosity toward each other. You know how people get together in people groups? The Bloods and the Crips? It'll create high levels of hatred for the other group for me to identify with this one. See how the devil destroyed churches and divided them? If I join this, I gotta hate that, or else I can't be identified with this. Folks building stuff to delude people always do this. They create an enemy somewhere. We're joined together based on the hatred for the enemy, as we perceive the enemy to be. That's a cult built on the hatred of something else. That's not God. God binds you together under the bonds of love. Selflessness. There's no target in God to hate. You fight the devil because he's at war against Christ. But we don't have a horizontal entity to fight against. We're not against anything or anybody in the physical seen world. but they'll be against you because that's what binds them together. In order to create strong satanic altars who hate God, the Illuminati actually encourages the young 2-year-old victim to understand and accept the love of God. Now think about this now. They get a young person and get them to accept and know the love of God. Upon this faith in a loving God will be built the rejection and trauma to create wounded altars who hate God because they feel rejected. So, you get a young child, introduce them to the love of God, and then bring in trauma so they'll begin to question God and hate God and wonder why God allowed this to happen to me. Notice how many people stand against God based on what happened to them in life. That's the trauma the devil uses. Rejection is a tool of Satan across the board in the world. Rejection creates a sine wave of hills and valleys. The way of the Lord is made straight, leveling these hills and valleys. When a person or nation is rejected, they will often shift to one of two extremes. Either they will try to perform to meet up to its expectations, or they will retaliate against rejection. Both are extremes. The hills and valleys of the shadow of death are what resembles a sine wave. A sine wave is a wave that goes up and down, like a radio wave. So when a person has been rejected, they'll either try to fit in to belong, or they'll fight everything because they are rejected, so they fight everything. I'm not going to let anybody tell me to do anything because I'm rejected, so I'll stand against everything. Or there'll be the other kind of extreme where they try to belong to everything. See, a woman that can't take rejection will do whatever a guy wants them to do in order to be accepted by him. He'll have her doing every perverse act in the book and keep spitting in her face because she can't take being rejected. So while Christ comes along to make you whole, to free you from the performance bondage that all of us have been privy to. So cults basically refashion God, and they create altars in you. Now what's an altar? I'll get to this very briefly. Altars are alter egos. When you have been messed up and rejected, traumatized, basically let's say you've been through the trauma of being an abuse victim. You were actually messed up and traumatized by your own daddy abusing you. Every night that young girl knows her daddy's coming in to have sex with her and she's just 7, 8, 9 years old. That's trauma. So she escapes to other altars in order to deal with the trauma. You study the people that have been through this out there in the entertainment industry. Beyonce, 14 years old, carried on the road with Destiny's Child to be the lead singer by her daddy, using her and pimping her to make money off of her, then leaving her mama and going to have a baby by a 30-year-old girl the same age as Beyonce. That's trauma. It's trauma, man. You don't know what happened in the home. You don't see how he treated her mama. Trauma. Recently, she was going back to school, go to get her GED. Folks don't know that about Beyonce. She's incapacitated inside. So she's become a star that overcompensates for not being fully developed as a child. Traumatized by her daddy. Rihanna, brutal upbringing in the home. Nicki Minaj, trauma-based. Her daddy was very brutal. She came up hard in Trinidad. Rihanna came up hard with a drug addict daddy in Barbados. Madonna turned against Roman Catholicism and her parents. Hated that Roman Catholic upbringing. Lady Gaga, look at her. Traumatized. Rebel. Mimicking Madonna. Trying to be the new Madonna. Lil' Kim used to fist fight with her daddy. Trauma. Kim Kardashian. You don't see her daddy nowhere around. Trauma. It's the constant now. Lindsay Lohan. Britney Spears. Turned out over at Disney. Turned over to Disney, who are nothing but monarch mind controllers. You gotta understand now, they use Disney programs for monarch mind control. They use any type of fantasy escape in order to get your mind fantasy prone. A lot of times they'll have them watch The Wizard of Oz. Disney movies. It's used in trauma-based mind programming. They want you to escape to the characters. That's what Alice in Wonderland is all about. They go through mirrors. Remember, she jumped through a mirror? The mirror is used to create alter egos. They'll have a mirror-lined room. And every mirror is a different you. What does it do? It fragments your soul. It creates what they call alters, which are alter egos. You escape to the alter ego when you can't deal with trauma. When something happens to you that you can't bear up under, you escape to that person. And that person is always a demon. This is why Nicki Minaj has somebody called Roman Zolansky. You remember Roman Polanski? What was he? A pedophile. She escapes to Roman Zolansky, one of her altars, and comes on stage as a masculine figure. Lady Gaga has a masculine figure she escapes to. Beyonce escapes to Sasha Fierce. They all got them. They've actually lost their minds. They're controlled by the demons. Miley Cyrus now came out the other day almost naked. People couldn't believe she had on a jacket as her dress. The jacket opened down to her navel, saying that sex is magical. It's wonderful. All kids should be told how magical and wonderful sex is. That's letting you know what she's doing. Another Disney tragedy. It all keeps coming heavy. Heavy. Amber Rose used to go with Kanye West. Now she's with Wiz Khalifa, another mind-controlled slave. Sierra, Angelina Jolie, bisexual. Now she's with Brad Pitt, talking about marrying him after taking him from Jennifer Aniston. And if you know Jennifer Aniston's resume, she was on GQ magazine butt naked with nothing but a tie on. All these folk mind-controlled slaves. Jenna Jameson, the porno queen. Pam Anderson coming out with a naked video along with Kim Kardashian. All these folks are mind-controlled, trauma-based slaves. What are they called to do? To matronize the mind. That's why the devil put female images everywhere. He's transferring the thing to the mind. What does he want you to worship? Male or female, bow to the vagina. They call it the power of the V. They're centrally focusing right between that woman's legs.
Lead me to the cross where your love poured out. Bring me to my knees, Lord, I lay me down. Rid me of myself, I belong to you. Oh, lead me to the cross